All right, working on the '06 Cobalt SS with the supercharged LSJ motor, non-variable valve time motor. The timing chain skipped a link, just missed bending the valves. The intake valve was tapping the pistons. There's witness marks, but after a compression test, leak down test, everything's fine. Replaced the timing chain. What happened with the timing chain was underneath this bolt here, which is here, this is an access bolt. That's how you get access to the upper guide bolt for the front of the motor. That bolt gets broken quite often on these motors, so much so that instead of reusing this, they've come out with the same thing, but with a shank and the bolt replacement on it, and you use that to hold the upper guide in place. I chose this one here because it had blue Loctite on it. This one here from Dorman has the red Loctite. Did not want to use that. So I chose this, and I used their up guide also, just to make sure everything matched up. But it's a quick, easy replacement doing that, and it avoids having to pull the head off, do some drilling, a couple $100 worth of work if you want to have someone else do it, quite a few hours if you're doing it. So that's a quick, easy fix for that portion of it. Replace that. The other thing I did that I thought it was the cam sensor at first, it wasn't. And if you can at all avoid taking this housing out due to the fact that this gasket here is not available. No one makes it. And it goes back here on the exhaust cam port. I had everything back together. Engine was running fine, except this was leaking, so I had to take everything back apart. So try to avoid that. From what I found out in my research, it typically is the timing chain on this motor, non-variable valve. It's different on the variable valve versions, but on this one, do not take this out to avoid this issue that I'm having to tear back into the motor for. The other issue on these motors is because of the supercharger, the belt tensioner is a strong one. To get that belt back on, what I did, and there's a special device that you can buy just for this unit, but didn't want to wait for it, didn't want to spend the money. So what I did was I narrowed a C-clamp off to take this hose off, stick that in there, and use the clamp. I made a quick, actually repurpose this from another project, and set that on there, put a little notch, because there's a 15mm notch on there that doesn't work with a 15mm. But put that on there, use the clamp to push it all the way down to its full detent position, and was able to get the belt back on. So again, on a P0017 on the LSJ version of this motor with the supercharger, it does not variable valve. This and the first gen 2.2 motor are non-variable valve. All the other versions of the Ecotech are variable valve since 2005 or so. The 2.4 was always variable valve, but the first gen of the 2.2 and the 2.0 is non-variable valve. So if you have the non-variable valve P0017, look at the timing chain. The other motors, you have to do some troubleshooting to make sure that it's not an actuator or a phaser or something like that. That's your issue. All right, once we have it back up and running, we'll make another video of showing the motor purring along.